deadlock avoidance algorithm. So before that, in the last class, we discussed about the deadlock prevention algorithms, right? So in the deadlock prevention algorithm, we are concentrated on mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, and circular wait. And we concentrated that these deadlock situations should be avoided. So if one of the deadlock condition is avoided, then we ensure that the deadlock will never occur. So next, so here what happened there, here putting the constraints on allocating the resources whenever the processes are requesting, right? If you go for such type of prevention algorithms, then it leads to low device utilization, means the device utilization will be poor, and it leads to the reduced system throughput. Hence we are moving on to the alternate approach, and that approach is called as the deadlock avoidance. Okay, so alternate approach to deadlock prevention is the deadlock avoidance algorithm. So in the deadlock avoidance algorithm, we are looking into the additional information about how the resources will be allocated to the requested process. So this algorithm requires that the processes should give the information about the resources that they are going to use their lifetime. So before the process start executing, they must give the information about what type of resources they require and how many instances of each resource they require. That information should be given by each process in advance. So once the information is given, whenever the processes are requesting for the resources, then we'll check whether the requested resources will be allocated to the process or not, depending on the availability of the resources, means how many resources are available and how many are currently held by the process. And if the resources are allocated, then whether the system will enter into the deadlock situation or not. So by considering these things, then only the resources will be allocated to the requested processes. So that algorithm is called as the deadlock avoidance algorithm. Now let us consider an example of, there are two processes exist in a system, process P and process Q, and two resources are there, one tape drive and one printer. These are the two resources available, and two processes are there, P and Q. And when so P will give the information that P uses the tape drive first, then it uses the printer, whereas the Q gives the information that it will use the printer first, then it will move on, then it will use the tape drive. So once the information collected, then whenever the P is requesting for the resource, then we'll decide whether the request can be allocated or not. Means we are collecting the information by each of the resources, by each of the process in advance. So that is the main condition for the deadlock avoidance. So here the deadlock avoidance algorithm requires that the system has some additional prior information available. And here we are using the simplest and the most useful model, and that model requires that each process declares the maximum number of resources of each type that it may need. Now let us consider that the process P gives the information about how many resources it will use and maximum number of each resource type, that also it will be given by the process P. And whenever the process P request for the resource, then we'll check whether the resource can be allocated or will make the process P to wait. So here the deadlock avoidance algorithm dynamically examines the resource allocation state to ensure that there can be never a circular wait condition. So in the previous classes you have studied what is circular wait, right? If the three processes are there, P1, P2, P3, and three resources are there, R1, R2, R3, then P1 is requesting for R2 and by holding R1, and P2 is requesting for R3 by holding R2, and P3 is requesting for R1 by holding P3. Then that situation is called as a circular wait, or that condition is said to be a circular wait condition. So here in the deadlock avoidance scheme, we are continuously checking the circular wait condition should never occur. So if we avoid the existence of the circular wait condition, then we'll assure or will ensure that the deadlock will be avoided. So then how we are defining the resource allocation state. So the resource allocation state is defined by the number of available and allocated resources and the maximum demands of the resources by each process. Understood? The resource allocation state is defined by the number of available and allocated resources and the maximum demands of the resources by each process. So next we'll move on to the safe state. So what is a safe state and why it is required? So what is a safe state? A state is said to be a safe state if the system can allocate the resources to each process in some order and still avoid the deadlock. Now let us consider that we have two processes P1 and P2 and resources are there R1 and R2. We are allocating these resources to P1 and P2 in some order. Even though after the allocation of those resources we can avoid the deadlock, and that state is said to be a safe state. Understood? A safe state is the state if the system can allocate the resources to each process in some order. So after allocating the resources to the process, still we can avoid the deadlock, and that state is said to be a safe state. Now let us consider here the one thing here. Yeah, the system is in a safe state if there exists a sequence P1, P2 to Pn. So here we have the, just a minute. Here we have this sequence P1, P2 up to Pn, all the processes in the system such that for each Pi, the resource that Pi can still request can be satisfied by currently available resources plus resources held by all the Pj with J is less than 1. Now let us consider the sequence, right? They have given P1 to Pn. So let us consider only three processes P1, P2 and P3. Now P3 is requesting for the resource that so whenever the P3 is requesting for the resource, then that request can still be satisfied by the currently available resources and the resources held by the remaining two processes P1 and P2, such that P1 and P2 is less than the currently running process, that is Pi. Okay, now let us consider that if Pi resource needs are not immediately available, means if P3 is requesting for a resource R2, if that is not currently available, then Pi will move on to the, or P3 will move on to the waiting state, and it will wait until the remaining processes completes their execution and releases the resources. So once the other processes completed their execution and they released the resources, and those released resources will be allocated to the requested process P3. Then P3 uses all the resources allocated to that, then releases the resources. Once it releases the resources, then those resources will be allocated to other requested process. So even though we are doing all these things, and if we are still in a safe state, then we say that the deadlock will never occur. So the safe state means whenever the process requesting for the resources and the resources are allocated to the requested processes in some order, and still we can avoid the deadlock, and that state is said to be a safe state. Similarly, safe state we have unsafe state. So in the unsafe state there is a chance that the deadlock will occur. So in the unsafe state, we'll say that the deadlock will occur. So consider this here. The system is divided into two states. One is the safe state and other one is the unsafe state. Safe state and the unsafe state. When the system is in the safe state, the deadlock will never occur. And when the system is in the unsafe state, then there may be a chance for the deadlock. If the deadlock is already occurred, then we'll say that the system is in the unsafe state. So understood? when the deadlock is occurred, we say that the system is in the unsafe state. But when the system is in the unsafe state, then there may be a chance that the deadlock will occur. So there are two possibilities when the system is in the unsafe state: the deadlock may occur or the deadlock may not occur when the system is in the unsafe state. But the system, when the deadlock is occurred, then we say that the system is in the unsafe state itself. But when the system is in the safe state, then the deadlock will never occur. In this way, if we keep the system is in the safe state, then we can avoid the occurrence of the deadlock. So this the basic facts about the deadlock avoidance. That is, if a system is in the safe state, then no deadlocks. If a system is in the unsafe state, then there is a possibility for the deadlock. But by then how we can avoid the deadlock? By ensuring that the system will never enter into the unsafe state. So if if we are maintaining the system always in the safe state, then we can ensure that the deadlock will never occur, or the system will not enter into the deadlock state. So by considering the safe state and unsafe state, we'll check whether the system will enter into the deadlock or not. So the important condition is, whenever the system is in the safe state, then we'll ensure that the system will never enter into the deadlock state. And when the system is in the unsafe state, then there is a possibility of occurrence of the deadlock. But when the deadlock is occurred, then we say that the system is already in the unsafe state. Understood? So this is about the safe state and the unsafe state. Next we'll see the example for the say the algorithm where we are using or how we can use the deadlock avoidance algorithms so that we can avoid the deadlock. Now let us consider an example of a single instance of a resource type, and this is used in the resource allocation graph. So in the previous classes I already explained what is a resource allocation graph and how that can be used to detect the deadlock, right? And the other one is multiple instances of a resource type. Here the example for this is the Banker's algorithm. So first we'll discuss about the resource allocation graph and how that can be used to avoid the deadlock, and in the next class we'll see how the Banker's algorithm is used to avoid the deadlock. So first we'll see the uh, so let us, before moving on to the resource allocation scheme, we'll see one example whether that is there or not. Okay, that algorithm is not there. So okay, one example I'll give. Let us consider that we have three processes, P0, P1 and P3, and the available resource is the magnetic tape, and 12 instances of magnetic tape drives are available. Understood? We have three processes, P0, P1 and P3, and 12 magnetic tape drives are available. And the maximum need for P0 is 10, and for P1 it is 4, and P2 it is 9. Okay, so maximum requirement of the magnetic tape drive for P0 is 10, for P1 it is 4, and for P2 it is 9. Understood? 10, 4, 9 are the maximum requirement for each process. But currently P0 is using 5 magnetic tape drives, P1 is using 2 magnetic tape drives, and P2 is using 2 magnetic tape drives. So out of 12 available magnetic tape drives, 5 are used by P0, 2 are used by P1, and P2 are used by P2, and 3 tape drives are free, and those 3 can be used by any of the processes. Now let us consider that at the time T0, the processes P0, P1 and P2 are holding 5 to 2, that is 5 tape drives, 2 tape drives and 2 tape drives. And now let us consider the sequence, whether that sequence is safe or not. Now consider the sequence P1 comma P0 comma P2. Okay, see, consider the sequence P1 comma P0 comma P2 means P1 will be allocated the resource first, and then we'll move on to the P0, and then we'll move on to P2. So if we follow this sequence, we'll check whether the system is will be in the safe state or not. So here the P1 is holding two tape drives. What is the maximum requirement for P1? It is 4, and the available free tape drives are 3. So once we allocate the remaining two tape drives to P1, then P1 completes its execution and releases the tape drives. So then how many will be available now? So 3 are there. Among 3, 2 are allocated to P1. So totally 4 are allocated to P1. So P1 completes its execution and releases all 4 tape drives, and one is remaining in the resource allocation state. Then how many? Total 5 tape drives are available at T1. And now P naught is holding 5 tape drives, and what is the maximum requirement for P naught? It is 10. Now P1 releases 4, and uh, so total available tape drives will become 5, and P naught request for 5, so that the P naught will be given, right, or P naught will be allocated to the remaining 5 tape drives. Once P naught completes its execution and releases all 10 tape drives, and P2, what is the P2 maximum need? 9, but currently it is using 2, and remaining 7 can be allocated to that. So if we allocate the remaining 7 tape drives to P1, then P2 completes its execution and releases. So in this way, so all the resources will be allocated to the processes in the sequence P0, P1 and P2, and still the system is in the safe state. So if we allocate the resources in the sequence P0, P1, P0, sorry, P1, P0 and P2, then we'll ensure that the system will be in the safe state, and the deadlock will be avoided. Now let us consider the sequence that uh, P2 will be allocated, then we'll move on to P1 and P0. P2, P1, P0. If you go in this way, then suppose 5 to 2 are already held by P0, P1 and P2. If one more tape drive is requested by P2, if that is allocated, then the currently available will be 2, and if we allocate those 2 tape drives to P1, then P1 completes its execution and releases the tape drives, and the available tape drives will be 4. So only 4 tape drives are available, but the request for P0 is 5 and for P2 is 6. Then that cannot be allocated. Hence the sequence will say P2, P1, P0 is not safe. So if that sequence is not safe, then we cannot allocate the resources to the requested process, because if you allocate the resources, then what happens? The system will enter into the unsafe state. Once the system enters into the unsafe state, then there is a possibility that the deadlock will occur. So always whenever we are allocating the resources, will ensures that the system should not enter into the unsafe state. So if the system enters into the unsafe state, then there is a possibility that the deadlock will occur. So we need to avoid that situation. So that we are concentrating in the deadlock avoidance algorithm. So how we can avoid this situation means avoiding the system to enter into the deadlock, enter into the unsafe state by using the resource allocation graph. So as I said in the previous class, you already studied what is resource allocation graph and how the resource allocation graph is constructed, right? So processes are represented by circles, and resources are represented by rectangular boxes, and each instance of the resource is represented as dot within the rectangular box, and there we have considered the requested and the assignment edge, right? Request edge means whenever the process pi is requesting for the resource, then that is represented by a request edge. Assignment edge means whenever the resource is allocated to a particular process, that is represented by assignment edge, right? Along with the request edge and the assignment edge, we are using one more edge called as claim edge in this resource allocation graph scheme. Okay, one more edge called as the claim edge is used in the resource allocation graph. So what is a claim edge? So now let us consider that the claim edge pi implies rj. It indicates that the process pi may request the resource rj, and it is represented by the dash line. But in the previous case, how we are representing the request edge and the assignment edge by the thick line, right? But whereas the claim edge is uh, represented as the dotted line. So here, so this represents the claim edge. So P1 implies R2 is the claim edge. Means what? So P1 is may request for the resource R2 in future, or P1 may need the resource R2 in future, and that is represented in terms of claim edge and in the dashed line. Similarly, P2 is also requesting for the resource R2 in future, and that is represented as the claim edge. Whereas these two edges, this one is the assignment edge and this is the request edge, right? P2 is requesting for R1 is the request edge, where R1 is allocated to P1. This is the assignment edge. Along with the request edge and the assignment edge, we are using one more edge called as the claim edge. Okay, so then how we because here, so in the deadlock avoidance algorithm, the main condition is before the process starts or begins its execution, it must give the requirement about how many resources it require and how many instances of each resource it may require in future or during its execution. That should be given first, then only we can construct the resource allocation graph. And whenever the P1 is requesting for the resource, then we'll check whether resource will be allocated or not. So that is the main condition in the deadlock avoidance. All the processes in the system should give their need of the resources in advance, and that is represented in terms of in terms of claim edge. Okay, so next we'll see how this resource allocation claim edge will be considered for allocation of the resources and to check whether the system will be in the safe state or not. So here the two conditions are, so the one main condition in the resource allocation graph is we need to avoid the existence of the cycles. If it leads to cycles, then there is a chance of the deadlock. So if we avoid the cycles or the occurrence of the cycles in the resource allocation graph, then we can avoid the deadlock. So the same concept is here used here also. Now let us consider here the request edge for P1 is P1 implies R2, and for P2 it is P2 implies R2. Now let us consider that P2 is requesting for R2, because here R2 is anyway free, that can be allocated either to P1 or P2, whichever is requesting first. Now let us consider that P2 is requesting for the resource R2. Then we have to check whether the requested resource to be allocated to the process or not. So how we are checking? We are checking that if by allocating the resource R2 to the requested process P2, we have to check whether it leads to the existence or whether it leads to the cycle or not. If it leads to the cycle, then that request cannot be satisfied, because see here P2 initially requested for R2. If R2 is allocated to P2, then what happens? It leads to the cycle, right? It leads to the occurrence of the cycle. So then if the cycle exists, then there may be a chance that the deadlock will occur. So we need to avoid such situations. Then how that can be avoided? So whenever P2 is requesting for R2, we check that the cycle will exist. During that time, we'll wait until the sum of the resources are released by other process, right? And the P2 will not be immediately served. Okay, the P2 will be kept in the waiting state until the resource R1 is released by P1. So once the R1 is released by P1, then only R2 will be allocated to P2, because that breaks the cycle, right? If immediately we are allocating R2 to the P2, then what happens? It results in a cycle. Then if it results in a cycle, then it leads to the deadlock situation that we need to avoid. Then how that can be avoided? We are avoiding that by keeping the process P2 in a waiting state by not allocating the R2. Then when R2 will be allocated? Only when the resource R1 held by process P1 is releasing the resource R1, then we are breaking the cycle, then only the R2 will be allocated to P2. Otherwise the system will enter into the deadlock situation. So in this way, by using the resource allocation graph, we'll decide whether to allocate the resources to the requested process or not by checking the existence of the cycles within the resource allocation graph. And here this is continuously monitored by an algorithm. So then how much time it will take, or how many operations will take the algorithm will take. So the algorithm will take n square operations, where n is the number of processes in the system. So here in the system, if two processes are there, then the algorithm will take four operations to check whether the system will enter into the deadlock situation or not. So that is continuously monitored. If no cycle exists, then immediately the resources will be allocated to the system. So in this way, we are using the resource allocation graph to check whether the system will enter into the safe state or unsafe state. Unsafe state means when the cycle exists, then we'll say that the system is in the unsafe state, or the system will enter into the unsafe state. Because here, if we are R2 resource is allocated to the request process P2, then the cycle then it results in a cycle. If it results in a cycle, then we'll say that the system is entered into the unsafe state. If the system is in the unsafe state, then what happens? Then there is a chance that the deadlock will occur. Then that we have to avoid. So if we avoid that situation, then we are easily avoiding the deadlock condition. Right, so this is about the using the resource allocation graph to check whether the system is in the safe state or unsafe state, and whether the unsafe state leads to the deadlock situation or not. Any doubt in this? Any doubt? Any doubt? If no doubt, then I'll move on to the next algorithm, that is the Banker's algorithm. So in the resource allocation graph, we assume that only one instance of each resource type is existing, and in the Banker's algorithm, we'll have the more number of instances for each resource type. That we'll discuss in the next class. Now we are having the class at 11:30. Are you having the class now? If you are having the class, then we'll see the Banker's algorithm in the next class. So there once again we'll check whether the system will be in the safe condition or not. Then by using the Banker's algorithm, how we can see the sequence is in the safe state or not. Any doubt? Any doubt?